Have you ever wondered why lacrosse isn't that fastest growing youth sport that your child does not want to play? That's because it's not your mainstream sport. It's not that sport that you always hear about in your high school, that varsity sport that everyone's talking about. The sport always on the news, always on TV, always broadcasted. It's not even shown where the players are making millions and millions of dollars. They don't show that stuff about lacrosse. Well, that's because lacrosse is a very odd history and has been played for hundreds of years by Native Americans. First off, they would use this to settle disputes. Now, it's turned into a fast, fun youth sport that's super competitive, depending on if you go to the Northeast or not. Well, first off, the differences and the similarities between these two are very different, but they make way to a great parallel between the two. First off, and I think this is super important, that players need to know the history behind their sport. Just like with anything that you love or anything that you're passionate about, you need to know about where it came from or what has happened to it in the past. And that's very important because I've played the sport for about 10 years now, and I've also done some side research so I can learn about the sport that I love. So today I'm going to be talking about the history of the sport, how it's the fastest growing youth sport, the time that was used to play the game, the field size, the player size, and also some of the equipment that has changed. So first off, the history of the sport and how it became the fastest growing youth sport in history. First off, Native Americans have been playing this for hundreds of years, and they played it for multiple reasons. First off, they would use this to settle disputes or anything from playing this just for fun at festivals. Then finally, they would use this to train people for war. They would use this to keep their people in condition or to keep them busy working with teamwork and any other skills that be used during war. And also, lacrosse is credited the fastest growing youth sport in history. Lacrosse is the number one sport to be added to any varsity high school sports in history over the past few years. Now, with 27% of high schools now having boys, girls, or both lacrosse teams, that is a huge accomplishment. So, lacrosse still being connected to its roots, a lot has changed since then. Anything from the equipment or the length of the game. Lacrosse used to be played for days and days on end, and they would only take breaks at night, just so the warriors or their players would sleep. Now, it's down to 4 12-minute periods with a halftime in between. And also, something really big has changed, this is drastic, is the difference between the lacrosse equipment. Players would not wear any protective equipment at all. Now they required your helmet, shoulder pads, elbow pads, gloves, and some players even wear a rim protector. I did because didn't want anything broken. Now, the main thing is the lacrosse stick. The head, this is a traditional lacrosse stick. It was very open, and this pocket was very flat. Now, with the more contemporary lacrosse stick, it's also a lot longer. The head is fully enclosed, and the pocket is very deep, so you have a lot more control of the ball. Now, moving in to some of the difference between player size and field size. Fields were miles and miles long, miles wide. They'd play through the forest, they would play over rivers, they would play over the land that was available. Now, it's a 60 yards by 110 yards with 3 different lines. You have your mid-center line, and you have 2 restraining lines on each side, and inside the restraining box is where the goal is, where you have a crease, just like in hockey. Also, the player size has decreased majorly. Now your team size is still going to be about 32 players, but you only have 10 on the field at line, 3 at midfield, 3 at defense, and 3 at attack, which are your forwards, and you also have your goalie. You'd commonly have your 3 lines of midfield and 2 lines of forward and defense, and you'll sometimes have a backup goalie. Where old lacrosse, you used to have team size of 50 up, almost to the hundreds, which is an insane amount of people creating a great work in teamwork and everything that is a huge factor in any of our team sports. Now, there are no uncountable similarities and differences between the traditional and contemporary style lacrosse, but it's all going to be linked to the growing sport in our nation. Lacrosse is the oldest sport in the nation with the fastest growing youth population and fascinating facts that we can learn about every day. Things from traditional playing style, purpose, equipment have transformed to an action-packed with a form of big but safe hitting, and it is the game of skill over endurance now, because these games are so much shorter. And so as I leave you today, lacrosse is one of the sports with the roots tying back to the Native Americans while being played for multiple purposes and has transformed into this fast, fun youth sport, causing kids to become more active and also make more friends. That way, kids aren't just sitting on their couch doing nothing. They're actually going to be able to get out, which is a huge problem in our nation today.